I'm Mike Carlson, one of the judges, and this is Melissa Gohman. And I just wanted to thank everyone for entering their work in the show. It was a privilege to judge. It's a unique thing to judge a show through a computer screen. It forces the judges to focus on the composition and what we can see. There's a lot of materiality that informs the way we perceive art, and some of that is missing. At the same time, it's really important to have a digital footprint these days as artists create and share their work. And we would like to congratulate you on being courageous enough to make and show work in this digital format. It takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there as artists. And one of the things that we were really impressed by was the quality and range of work that was made in your region. It was a delight to be able to look at the work that you shared. One of the things that we really like about art is its ability to tell stories and ground us in a time. Our exhibition is unique in that it came from a time and space when we're being distant from each other, and at the same time, we're longing to connect. So art does a really nice job of telling the story of what's going on, as in this piece, Reflections of a Life Well Lived by Jody Wolfe.
In this photograph, the portrait of Patty by Deanne Sibley, the art transcends the medium. We get a portrait into the soul of the sitter, and you get to know a little bit about who this person is. Art can transcend the medium by allowing us to view this as a photograph, but it could easily be an oil painting as well.
Another fun thing about the art coming from a region is the recontext of what is art and where we see it. As in this piece, maybe we bring a skateboard and put it on the gallery wall, or maybe we take a painting and put it on a skateboard and bring it out to the streets.
In Maple Leaf Bowl by Butternut Wood, George Jameson uses the material of the maple tree to actually make a maple leaf. You get the beautiful chisel marks of the tools that are used to carve it, but yet the grain of the wood and the natural material really shines through on the piece. Botanical Sunshine by Kelly Megg is a really wonderful example of an artist just exploring the different medium that they're using. You get the watery technique, ghost-like images, and then you've got these really nice clear details of the botanicals. And so it's a really great example of an artist just pushing the medium to its limits.
Another fun thing that we see coming out of the work in your region is a vitality and a willingness to experiment, as in this piece, Secret Growth by Raquel O'Brien. Really enjoy the way this artist is excited about all of these different materials and exploring their ability to tell a story and convey meaning. Another great example is art sometimes challenges us to be better, as in this piece, Out of Sight, Out of Mind by Valerie Ravo. Obviously, some things in the world aren't easy to look at. They're hard, it's hard for us to know and admit that they exist. And then how does art approach these things? Art doesn't always have to be beautiful. Art can be challenging. It can be upsetting. And congratulations, Valerie, for making a piece that challenges us all.
In Queen of the Jungle, Selena Henderson pulls together a wonderful mix of these graphic peony flowers and then the painterly quality of the tigers. So just having a vision and going for it and combining different aspects and elements of art to fulfill their vision.
And I really liked the posture and stance of Super Spider by Alison Kubesh. Just a great example of how many ways there are to be creative.
Life of Lilac by Haley Risley. This piece creates a beautiful atmospheric quality, loose brushwork and pastel colors. It's like it's got a dreamlike quality.
Art also serves important functions. It's a place to put your shoes as you walk in, maybe to warm your feet in a certain part of your house. But another function that art serves is it gives us a place to put our energy and our focus, almost like a form of meditation. And I feel like the beauty of function and the way that art can entrance us while we're making it comes through in this Wool Rug in Three Colors by Deborah Peterson. Also, art delights, like getting lost in this multiple portraits of women by Alison Witzman. So these are some examples of the pieces that are coming out of your region. There's so many wonderful things, we couldn't focus on them all, but we wanted to speak to the range of work that's being made.
Next, we're going to talk about the opaque painting category. And we weren't able to include every piece, but we'd like to highlight Beauty and the Beast by Claire Fix. Wonderful study on value, shading, materiality. The glass reflection on the table looks like glass. The marbles feel and look like marbles. The bone looks like bone. It's a beautiful study of the colors used.
And now we'll get to the opaque merit category.
That Carlson's Untitled. This is a vibrant painting with so much layering of color. The brushwork varies in just the right way. Got nice, strong lines, soft areas. This painting has a lot to look at, but just enough hints of structure to really keep you interested.
Another one that we singled out for merit was One World Series, We All Belong by Janice Daylor. Some things that really stand out about this piece are the use of color and the use of gesture, the lightness of the figures, the way that they all feel anchored. There's a wonderful expressive quality to the way each figure stands strong and then at the same time dances a little bit, and the way that the narrative is enveloped in these wonderful colors. Another one that was really fun is Jungle Vibes by Isabel Helseth. Really liked the way that this person was able to layer very interesting color foliage, and there's just so many different ways that they used paint to tell the story of all these plants. It's just a symphony of how you can use paint to describe objects.
Fords in a Field by Bobby Olson is a really beautiful technical study of landscape. The muted colors are so descriptive and perfect to create this light scene. The technical painting, the Ford on the back, the grille and the headlights have this wonderful luminosity that is reminiscent of days gone by when these were celebrated brand new vehicles. The field fence brings you back into the painting, back into the mountain scene, the skyline. They lead you back back to this green Ford. It's just a wonderfully done composition. It's organized perfectly. The colors are gorgeous. And you've got these pops of these flowers in the lower right-hand corner. Sunkissed by Kristen Weber is also a well laid out composition. The painting is done beautifully, but in a very different style. You've got bold line work, bright colors, but the artist is able to use that beautiful sage green all the way around the painting to lead your eye through. But then you have this beautiful focus of the tomato right in the center that just invites you in. It's very playful and warm.
Another one is Hope and Blessings by Barbara Young. Really enjoy the forceful use of color in this piece. It creates mood. The sky blue has an intensity to it. The way that the purples shift from blue-violet to violet in pastel tones in the clouds, rimmed by the nice hint of ochre that is echoed in the ground. It transports you to this beautiful pasture, and our eye can just delight and dance around this landscape. Also earning a merit award, Dad's Girl by Taylor Swanson. This is a really exquisite painting. It's highlighted by wonderful use of paint to create texture. Also the illusion of like a shallow depth of field photograph. I really enjoyed the high contrast that is brought to the dog and the level of sharpness and detail. The wonderful use of that purple light, that diffuse light coming off the dog's back. We kind of have the sense of early morning fog, the way that the grass is kind of mottled with moisture, the browning of the edges or the tips of the grass. This speaks of the relationship of the animal by its gaze with us as the viewer, also to a specific time. And sometimes the medium that an artist uses to create artwork just falls away, and we're just really left with the image. And Dad's Girl does that.
Painting 2020 Opaque Excellence Award winner is Mayday 2020 by Jim Larson. In this painting, the artist has used all of the elements and principles of art very masterfully. We've got repetition and variation of the horizontal lines on the house, fence, the birdhouse, and that stripe at the bottom really anchors this painting in place. The artist uses color so masterfully in the grass, the beach ball, the bird, the house. Everywhere I look in this painting, the artist has just really exemplified how well you can do a painting of a simple subject. We are going to next talk about the transparent painting category. Vanishing Playground by Janelle Edstrom is a really wonderful example of artists taking a very serious political and social issue in our current times and taking a playful, kind of lighthearted look at it with these wonderful monkeys playing in the trees, but then with the large equipment cutting down trees and stacking. So their vanishing playground is illustrated quite lovely and framed in with these trees. Uh, the one monkey closest to us is looking in and maybe contemplating what's happening. So it's a really wonderful example of an artist taking a contemporary social issue and addressing it through art.
And now to our Merit Award winners in the transparent painting category. Apricot Afternoon, #2 by Gene Crocker. Really enjoyed the use of high key color, the way that that blue complements with the peaches and the oranges and the ochres to create this wonderful iris. Just a lot of lovely things happening in this painting. The way that the color is allowed to pool and sort of blend in with other borders of other colors, and at the same time, the control to allow the colors to saturate at the lines, the petals, the edges of the petals. There's just so much fun, at the same time, controlled examples of what you can do with watercolor. Another really delightful painting is Funky Cows by Nancy Radefeld. Just so much whimsy. I really like the bold line that bisects and then unifies this composition. And the wavy quality of it kind of evokes playing in the mud and the landscape and the reflections. That the cows are bisected with all these really fun shapes. It's sort of riding the line between abstraction and narrative.
Next is our painting, Transparent Excellence Award winner, Pine Creek Willows by Christina Thurston. In this painting, we have a wonderful example of the loose, watery quality of the medium, but very masterfully controlled. The artist has, the layout guides us through and around and back in. We've got loose gestural lines with the trees, sky, and mountains, but yet these beautiful crisp lines at the bottom with foliage and branches. The colors are muted yet vibrant, so very masterful use of the medium.
And now over to drawing. One of the things that we really liked about the drawing category is just the range of work that was made. A nice example was this Treasured Cardinal by Lois Lapp. Really enjoy the mandala approach used to border this cardinal. There's really delightful patterns, this ribbon rendered in diamond shapes that frames the bird, and then it's bisected by all this wonderful foliage, and then the little bit of red is sprinkled through. The beak is rendered really well, a little bit of highlight on the bird, and then a nice gradient that draws your eye through. Just a luscious example of how your eye can get lost in a drawing, and at the same time you can tell a really fun story. Next up are the Merit Award winners in drawing. The Four Angels of Torcello, Marilyn Gular. This is a really nice example of how many different ways you can render angel wings. As you move from left to right, it's almost like each one is a study in ways that you can draw the wings. I really enjoy the delicate line that's used in the background to render the wall behind the angels. It's got kind of a nice mannerist style with the elongated necks and the stylized faces. It reminds you of something that you might find in the archives of the Vatican or in the halls of the Louvre. At the same time, we have all this technical skill. There's this emotional quality because there's this intense glow where we can't even see what the angels are holding because the light is so vibrant that it's making it impossible for us to perceive. The faces are uplit. The whole composition is framed by this halo. So drawing done at a forceful level. Nice use of light.
On Strength by Vanessa Kari is a really beautiful example of value. The reflection in the water in front of us leads us into the drawing, nice and kind of blurred out. You can tell that it's a reflection in a pool that's got a little bit of movement. The line making with the architecture and the stairwell are just crisp and clear, beautifully rendered details. The cement pillars in the front closest to us have lovely mass and weight to them. And the sky is done in a very atmospheric way, that you've got these clouds kind of back there, but they're ever so gentle, and a little bit of that water rustling down below. It's a really wonderful study in value.
And now for the Drawing Excellence Award winner.
In Her House of the Black Seas of Infinity, Mike Manasco. This drawing is doing so much. It has such a wonderful vibrancy to it and so much detail. The amount of detail everywhere. It's in the, if you look at the helmet with the figure's eye kind of peeking out above the water on one side and below the water on the other. The artist has masterfully been able to create that effect of looking through water. The bubbles coming up from that area, that tube that's been severed, just the level of detail in just that one area has been applied everywhere in this drawing. And I'm loving the luminosity of the water behind the main figure, that wonderful green that's illuminated up through into the water.
All right. Next, we have the 3D functional sculpture category. A lot of strong work in this category again. One piece we thought would be fun to highlight is Rowan by Abby Lingle. I really liked the use of porcelain in this piece, contrasted by the black slip and the slip trailing. Really nice meditative quality. Again, you can kind of get lost in the mark making. The form is very dynamic. It stretches almost like an inflated balloon, and then it actually tapers to a very refined foot. As you move around this piece, it seems like it's multiple forms wrapped in one. And just a really nice use of black and illustration to pull your eye around the piece. Just a lot of nice things happening here.
Next, we have the 3D Sculpture Functional Merit Awards. Stony Point by Sue Vogan. In this piece, the artist has taken a illustrated poem and framed it with natural materials. We've got the birch bark beautifully put together with a stitched frame. It looks like all natural materials were used. We've got the stones on the bottom. It's a really lovely layering of natural materials that really reinforces the strength of the poetry. My Glorious Jacket by Carla Doms. In this, we have masterful stitching, quilting over the top of a very lovely constructed jacket. The color choices are vibrant and very complementary to one another, with a beautiful detailed quilted squares, all tied together by the overstitching of the quilting. I think the artist has done a very nice choice of using color to create a very vibrant piece that would be really fun to wear.
Also, a Merit Award winner is Zombie by Jason Lidman. Really fun example of the range of functional sculpture. Really enjoy the crazy textures that are used to make the fleshy quality of this piece. The black of the teeth, the openness of the nose, the way that the hair frames the upper part of the mask and gives it some contrast against all of the black. Really fun to think about somebody wearing this around and having a lot of fun with this mask. I think it would function really well as a part of like a video. You could wear it out on Halloween. Just lots of storytelling possibilities with this, and really solid technique and use of color and texture. Nice execution. And then we have 3D Sculpture, the Functional Excellence Award winner. 3D Leaf Bud by Richard Vincent. This is a really lovely form, triad of the different petals, the way that they come together and frame the open space, the way that the glaze breaks over the really clean, crisp edges that describe each petal of the flower. Also notice the way that the glaze is held off of the foot so that the foot line is echoed throughout the way that the glaze breaks over the line. That gives this structure. And then a really nice subtle application of a clear gloss in the copper red, where it's matte below and shiny up above. It's really difficult to pull off this level of precision and form.
Next, we're going to look at 3D Sculpture Non-Functional Merit Awards. Square by C. Fuller Cowles. In this sculpture, the artist uses the geometric forms, the square with the square mesh, also repeated with the square opening, the straight lines of the base, very structural base that holds up the square nicely. The negative space is beautifully used. And the way that the artist photographed this piece really was a fine example of what could very easily become a piece of permanent art in a park somewhere.
And now the 3D Sculpture Non-Functional Merit Award winners. One of the pieces that really stood out is Arrival at Boarding School by Susan Foss. It does a really nice job of telling a story. It's got a lovely folk art quality to it. At the same time, it's got some definite refinement that's happening. Really uses the idea of sculpture well. I enjoyed the gesture of the pose of the child attending boarding school is kind of the narrative. The way that the feathers held, almost like offering. There's a sense of anticipation in the gaze of the figure. Really hard to ignore the sort of contrast between the tan colors and the white. Conceptually, formally, there's a lot of really nice storytelling. Another strong entrant was Mistral by Jason Bolt. This has a lot of really fun use of found objects. Really like the way that the strings of the lines cascade down the structural armature into the prow. This evokes a lot of imagery, like Greek or Roman warships, sails on a boat, piano wire, even Marcel Duchamp's New Descending a Staircase, which a lot of good abstract work can do. It lets your mind roam free. The color palette is warm and muted, and there's just so much structure. And the way that light can play on this piece, it would install in many locations really well.
Clarion Whisper by Gary Carlson is a really wonderful example of found object assemblage. The artist has put the central figure, into this tuba-like hat that feels almost like a halo, with the whispering flower in his ear wrapping around the tuba and around the form, behind and down the base of the sculpture, ending with another lovely little curved horn. The artist uses line to draw you around the sculpture and uses a perfect mixture of matte surfaces with shining surfaces and the grays and then the bright coppery colors. It's a fine example of a figurative piece that tells a story but allows a lot of imagination at play as well.
And now for the 3D sculpture non-functional excellence award winner.
Three Sentinels and the Seer by Patricia Larson. In this piece, we've got of forms speak beautifully together. They're very monolithic and very quiet pieces. The way that the artist has placed them, too, with these square bases being offset just perfectly. Each base aligns with the bottom of the monolith in front of it or behind it. And then the way that the artist has kind of peeled back the layers of the sentinels in front and back and kind of exposed some texture underneath. And I love that the one in the back is almost like a flowing waterfall or river where you peeled back the layers. The use of the black line going down the center, drawing you down into this beautiful line. How the top is ever so gently dipped, kind of tells of a waterfall. The one in the front is peeled away, but you get more of a crumbling rock feel, more like a granite. Those shapes inside of there are reminiscent of the form itself. And then with the raven or crow on the top of the center one being the seer, I think this is a wonderfully playful but yet quiet and stoic piece at the same time.
All right, next we'd like to talk to you about photography. First piece that we wanted to highlight was the ending chapter by Ardent Mill, Rush City, Minnesota by Jake Hagman. Really liked the strong diagonal composition, the repetition of the cylinders in this form laid down on the train tracks and then standing up in the grain bin. The time of day and the way that the clouds moving through kind of create this really strong diagonal through the piece. And then really nice job choosing the time of day. We have the light cascading from right to left, illuminating everything. Just a really nice example of how a photographer can notice things happening in their community and then select the right time and the right conditions to go out and take the picture. And now the Photography Merit Award winners.
Dreaming of Avalon by Cadence Eschens. In this photo, the artist has cropped in to place our central figure on the dock with this stark white dress, which is then also mimicked in the farmhouse in the background. The diagonal line of the dock leads us back into the landscape behind. The trees bring us back around through to where the water is disappearing in the background with the three trees. The artist has used the reflection of the water and then the high contrast of the figure's dark and light and reflection has been really masterfully set up and captured.
Another photograph with really nice structure is Backwaters on the Sunrise River by Peter Genheimer. This evokes for me like Ansel Adams landscapes, zones photography, the silvery sky, the way that it's burned in, the clouds, the white and how mottled they can be, the reflection of the tree on the right hand side. It's hard to tell where it dips into the water. There's so many wonderful grays, and grasses are just as dazzling as the clouds in the sky and the reflections in the water. In a good photograph, the photographer taking the picture is sort of like a composer writing the score. How we present the photograph, how we dodge and burn, how we use contrast and levels to create the feeling is likened to how the conductor gets the orchestra to play it. And this image was well composed, and the tonal values were expertly presented.
Winter 11 by Dennis Genero. In this photo, we have a lovely atmospheric quality, the trees in the background just barely there, with this stark, dark contrast of the post in the foreground and the barely visible line of the fence leading us across and kind of disappearing into the snow. It's a wonderfully subtle photograph. The artist has used perfect exposure, and we have the light snow in the very front of this photograph disappearing back into the photo. It's a lovely capturing of a very subtle and very evocative and emotion inspiring atmospheric moment. Waiting by Roger Newborn. In this photo, I love the way that the photographer has kind of told us a story, and it is curious, it's playful, it's interesting, and it really makes you wonder, who is this person? What are they waiting for? Why are they standing in the tree? But they've also used the elements and principles of art beautifully. We've got some lovely texture in the grasses. We've got the texture of the tree bark, the stark white in the background with the stark white of the dress, and then the repetition and variation in the suitcases, using the dark suitcase, a white suitcase with dark hardware, and then a dark suitcase with the lighter hardware with the sun dappled on top. The artist has really captured and created an interesting moment in time, and the composition is very well done. Abandoned Schoolhouse, Cambridge Township by Jay Anderson. In this photograph, the artist has been able to capture the true feeling of what it would be like to stand in this abandoned schoolhouse. They've chosen the time of day and the lighting perfectly. Feels like maybe some adjustments have been made to highlight some of the lines and some of the contrast that was happening already in the patina of the walls and ceiling. You've got beautiful capturing of the lines in this piece, the tiled ceiling, how it curves away from us in the kind of a fisheye effect. The repetition and variation in the doorways with the windows and then the column on the right. Those beautiful, strong vertical lines give us places to rest, where this horizontal line of the wainscoting leads us around the building, and then the exposed floorboards lead us back into the photo. I think it's masterfully cropped, and the lighting and adjustments have been done very nicely to create it's a telling atmospheric effect. Three Dresses by Evan Gorham. In this photo, the artist is getting old feeling of a city with these beautiful dresses, kind of reminiscent of a times past. But then you have the reflection in the glass of contemporary lettering and the cars, telling us that it's a contemporary photo. So it's a beautiful mixture of the old architecture and the old ball gowns with a modern kind of twist, and with that beautiful reflection of the buildings in the back. You've got the repetition and variation of the windows, all of the squares of the windows draw us in, the diagonal line pulls us into the photo, and then brings us back around on the bottom again with that diagonal line coming back to us. The colors are subtle, and it's beautifully cropped.
And now for our Photography Excellence Award winner, Reflections of a Life Well Lived by Judy Wolfe. This photo has got such a timeliness of it. It speaks to what's happening in these last few months in many of our lives. At the same time of being timely, it's done a really nice job of telling a story. We have a window that reflects and allows light in. It allows us to interact through the barrier. It's got the fence Again, a fence is meant to protect, and at the same time, the fence contains. So we have this border kind of going through. We have the phone. We're so close that we could normally talk to the person, but now we have the phone, so it implies this closeness and this distance. There's a real trick to photographing reflections. You have to get past the surface of the glass and go into the reflection. This person has done a really nice job of riding the line between having the focus on the figures inside and at the same time having the focus allow the parking lot, the fence, the person behind to be present. Like it's muted around, but the figures are warm and higher contrast and they have more saturation in their color.
In the category Other Art Forms, we wanted to highlight Wildflowers in a Vase by Shireen Babu. We liked how the artist used a lot of layering of different text and calligraphy, maybe the music and some graphic design, printed design, underneath the paint. The artist created the vase form rising up from the top and some nice blocking down there of color. And then great diagonal lines coming into it with the polka dot pattern and dotted lines, calligraphy. You got this subtle text coming through behind the floral painting, centered with this white flower in the middle of the top part of the page. So we really appreciated the complexity and layering in this painting. The Other Art Forms Merit Award winners, Busy Skirt Installation by Nancy Hunger. We really loved how this installation utilized the repetition and saturation of this printed, it looked like graded papers to us. We're both teachers, so it really spoke to both of us in that it looked like a teacher had finished grading for the year. All the pages have type on them, like worksheets, but then also a lot of handwriting over the top of that. The use of the paper to create the collar on the shirt, and then the accordion fold of the skirt going around the figure was quite masterful. The posture of the figure, not only do they have the rolled up paper behind the ear, but then they've got the pen held up to the face, and the figure is looking off away from us, contemplating something. It really spoke to me as an educator, kind of what people are feeling at this time of year.
Another Merit Award winner is Evening Cityscape by Stephanie Dickinson. This piece has got a lot of fun things going on. I really like the digital or comic book feel of the render of the city, the framing of the different elements to break it up. We have heavy boxes and finer line boxes, but everything has really good structure, a lot of variety in the size of the line and the way of the line, but it also has really nice unity. And then you contrast the way that the city is broken up with the sort of cosmic Mars surface or abstract painting, maybe even like a raku pot surface in the color. And so the combining of these two images, in some places we have only cosmic, in other places we have only city. And then in a few areas, the skyline or even the structure of the building sort of dissolves into the color. So nice job using unity and having two really distinct materials or processes come together in one image. Another fun example in the other category was Floral Fireworks by D. Kotaska. Really liked the atmosphere that was created. It's got a watercolor feel to it, but then it also has a cosmic illustration feel to it. Really nice saturation of color. The magentas and the red violets really draw you in. It's got a meditative quality to it. And then there's enough going on in the background where you get a feel for other things. Like it kind of feels like there might be a figure going on up in here, maybe in sort of a state of repose. At the same time, it could just be a happy accident of how the floral composition was rendered into a firework. It definitely has a great title. It explodes into your eye and off the page or off the screen. Thistle by Mike Gaynor is another great piece. Really liked the low-key color palette, the richness, and the way that the black sort of gradients into really vibrant color. It's got a feeling of glass. It's got a feeling of drawing. There's sort of a scraped quality to it, a fracture. It just evokes a lot of things that you can do to create this kind of imagery, and the eye can move around the composition and be rewarded by really fun textures and nice colors.
Untitled by Anita Gislason. That piece is just a wonderfully bulbous kind of pear-like form out of I think a gourd maybe. Um, we've got the natural wood color showing through on the petals of the flower. It looks like it's burned, and maybe some ink applied to it to get these really luscious blacks. The artist has created volume with the large flowers, but then there's so much depth within the leaves. So having that feeling of a three-dimensional space carved onto a three-dimensional form was quite skillful. And we love the little stem that's coming out of the top. It gives it a little bit of a playful feel to it and really gives it a sense of being.
Merit Award is Gathering Distance, Deb Huberty. With this piece, it seemed to be talking about the time in which we're living with our social distancing. Each individual family is in their recliners in a bird cage. The bird cages are kind of lined up in a way that feels almost like tombstones in a graveyard. That mist coming up, all of the bird cages are lined up. The repetition and variation of the bird cages themselves is quite dynamic. The lines repeating, the vertical lines and diagonal lines repeating back into the distance is quite lovely. The raven is placed in such a way that you really feel the presence of that bird there.
Other art forms, the Excellence Award is Jackalope by Terry Hero. And we were noticing this piece. It's a beautifully done value drawing on a piece of wood. The delicate details of the face, of the hair, the ears, the feet, the paws of the rabbit, but then with that folk tale of the jackalope that you see out west when you go. So it's playful with its topic. And then we've got the beautiful repetition and variation of the circles in these bright, bold colors running up the rabbit and then repeated within the moon behind the rabbit or sun. It was a very lovely mixture of a non-traditional medium of painting on a piece of wood, very traditional drawing approach with a non-traditional painting approach applied on top of that. It sparked a lot of curiosity and playfulness. I just thought it was a very masterfully done piece overall.
My name is Melissa Gohman, and I'm joined by Mike Carlson. We were honored to be chosen to be the judges for this year's show, and we had a really great time looking at so many wonderful pieces of work with such a range of skill levels and different mediums that were included. One thing I'd like to say is that I know that it's hard to throw your hat in the ring for juried shows and competitions. Taking art, creating art takes courage. And then to put it out there for exhibition is a courageous act all in itself. And it's what makes the arts, we aren't able to have art exhibitions like this without people entering. So thank you for entering, taking that leap.
Hey, participants in the 2020 Images Show, I'd just like to say hi. My name is Michael Carlson. I'm the other judge. I'd like to echo Melissa's comments. Congratulations on putting yourselves out there as artists and sharing your work. Viewing the range of work was an inspiration for me, and I'm really impressed with the range and variety and quality of work that's coming out of your region. It's really important to acknowledge that as judges, we all have aesthetic sense, and everybody's aesthetic sense is different. What we value in the moment changes, and I feel like it's true if you would see artwork at a different time, you might perceive it differently, and the same artwork evaluated by 5 different judges would have 5 different evaluations. It's a really unique opportunity to show work digitally, and it's unique because we can only look at the pixels and the colors and the composition and arrangement that's in front of us. So some of the beautiful things we know that happen with art, with this materiality, and the way that process and technique reveals itself through the materials, some of those things were lost in the show. But at the same time, it's a really unique thing to show your work digitally, and we all know that having a digital presence for our work is only becoming more important.